and I crushed it in my hands and I put it up against my nose and inhaled deeply and went, file in my brain. Now I know what a fig leaf smells like. And then I ran around the olive groves where it was also covered with different orange trees as well. And it's an amazing thing. Always taking leaves off of trees, crushing them in your hands, different orange trees, whether they're Sevilla oranges or whether they're mandarin oranges, all of those leaves give different smells. And these are going to tap into your memories as well, and this is going to help build your file. So I encourage you to always go and smell that fig leaf at the end of the day. If you've never smelled a fig leaf, it'll change your life. So now that we've talked about how we process flavors, I'm sure you're ready. Let's dive into a little bit of tasting. Now, how do we taste olive oil? There are 4 different steps that you'll want to do. Basically, you'll first want to swirl, and I'll do this with you. Now, we usually use blue tasting glasses, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Unfortunately, I don't have these here with me today. However, what you want to do when swirling, this is going to release some of the aromas of the molecules of the aroma. So you're going to want to turn it in your hand. Cup your hand over the top if you can, and start to warm the oil in the base of your hand. So just hang on to it while I continue to talk. It's a nice thing while you're talking to just pick up an olive oil and stand like this as you know that you're warming up your olive oil and getting it ready. Then you're going to want to sniff. So uncover the olive oil cup quickly and take a deep breath. And then cover it again. Keep turning. You can keep turning and then go back to it. But basically you want to be able to contain those aromas as much as possible. Turn them, and then bring them up for another sniff. Following that, you're going to want to slurp. So take a small sip of that olive oil, and in wine tasting we do the same thing. You're going to want to give this a good slurp. Basically the slurping action, it emulsifies the oil, and this helps just spread it throughout your entire mouth. So give it another sniff if you're ready, and then give it a slurp. And don't worry, we're all going to be slurping, so yes, we're going to be making some noise here today. So give it a slurp. And then swallow. Here, an oil's pungency is going to be judged by the sensation on your throat. We're going to talk about that, about picante, and how it plays in the back of your throat. I see some of you coughing already. This is the cough factor. It hits the back of the throat, and this is where you're getting that pungency. So, here, with oil, you do want to swallow. At first I was like, where's the spittoon? Where's the cauchoir? Right? And they said, no, Nicola. With olive oil, you always want to swallow as well because you want to have that full experience to look for the fruitiness, the bitterness, and the pungency, that final cough factor. Now, what are we looking for? We just went through this, but we'll go back to this olive oil in a minute. Basically, through a sensory panel, there are 3 different attributes that we're looking for, positive attributes. We're looking at the fruitiness, so involving both the aroma and taste, often described in terms of, is this fresh, is this ripe? Is it fresh and green, or is it ripe and mature? Where does this olive oil stand? Do we think it was early harvest? Do we think it was late harvest, which will show more of those ripe and mature notes? Bitterness. So bitterness is a good thing in olive oil. We want to always have, though, a balance between bitter and pungent on the palate. So you don't want the bitterness to overwhelm the pungency and vice versa. So you're looking for that bitterness, though, and on a scale of 1 to 10, with fruit, we're going to basically choose a number on that scale, and then with bitterness and pungency, find hopefully a nice equilibrium there as well. And as I mentioned, that coughing factor, that biting sensation that is, You can get it on the mouth, but really it's at the back of the throat. Again, in Spanish we call it picante. It's very specific and it hits that back and gives you that cough factor. Now, just so that you know, there are negative attributes, and while we are evaluating olive oil, we're looking at these potential negative attributes as well, and this comes down to process. This comes down to how clean is your factory, how quickly did you process the oil, the olives, all of these different steps. And so these are the negative attributes. Fusty, if the olives are piled and stored improperly and they've started to ferment. Musty, because of a humid storage. Winey, that can occur when the pressing mats aren't clean and they've started to ferment and they've formed an acetic acid. Rancid, and then frostbitten olives when the olives have been injured by frost. Rancid is the only one that you would look at today, thinking like, has this olive oil been affected by any kind of conditions? So has it started to basically, if it hasn't been properly stored, and it started to oxidize? Thankfully, we don't have any of those olive oils with us today. So, another similarity I mentioned is glassware. So typically, we use these blue glasses. They're almost like small votive candle glasses, not quite as large as a blue copita. Why is this important? Now, I think personally that in spirits tasting, I believe that we should always only be doing nosing and tasting with blue glassware, unless you're a master blender and you're using natural color in your blending process. So then you'll have to use clear glassware in order to identify that natural color. That said, blue glassware, I think you should use it for rums, for whiskeys, for gins, because no matter what, color plays into how we perceive taste and smell. Always. I think that you should have a lineup of gins and put them in blue glasses. I always say that when you remove one sense, it enhances the others. It supports the others. So, by removing that visual, you really tap into that inner part of your brain and tap into what's going on here. The most important things of what do you smell, what do you taste, how do you feel, right? So with spirits, we should always be doing that. Same goes for olive oil, and we don't want to be thinking, oh, it's yellow, it's green, because again, it doesn't matter. So let's remove that altogether and work with blue glassware. I was going to bring some blue glasses today, but they forgot to send them in Spain. Oops. So, the olive oils that we're tasting today, that we've already started on with number 1, they all belong to Oro del Desierto. This is in the region of Tabernas in Andalusia, down in southern Spain, out in the desert. The reason that I decided to go with one particular producer is because I wanted to use a producer that I trusted, but we're going to be exploring 3 different varieties today, as well as one blend, one coupage. And I knew that with Juanjo here, who basically, this is the master miller, if you can believe, he's been in the industry for 18 years. He started milling with his dad when he was 16. And so he and his brother Rafa, who run the business now, along with their father, they're making some incredible product. And so I wanted to take all of our oils today from a producer that I trusted, but also to demonstrate that you can process very different olive varieties at one single location as well, and still create beautiful product. So this is where I had a chance to work and put my milling skills to the test. I was an apprentice, I was following along, but it was an incredible experience. Now the first olive oil that we've just tasted here is an Arbequina. Arbequina is typically from Catalonia, so Tarragona and Lleida, although its growth is actually spread now across the country of Spain. The name is from the town of Arbeca, and the typical characteristics of this are it's a very sweet and fluid oil, but it has no bittery or peppery notes to it. It is known as the fruity olive oil. It may give you apples, bananas, almonds. This is quite typical from Arbequina. And so for people who are just getting into olive oil and experiencing them, this is an easy go-to because it's not as pungent, it's not as bitter. It's very soft and very accessible. So Here, again, the harvest is from half of October through to early November. Did I mention that Juanjo is very busy right now? So he's not sleeping because he is busy milling and collecting all of the olives from their groves. So let's just go back to this Arbequina, and now that you know some of the different properties that you might find here, I'm curious to know what you smell and what you taste. Cup your hand over number 1 again. Be sure, just keep warming it up. And give this one a nose. Now for me, this one has, I get a beautiful bitter artichoke on here actually. Beautiful bitter artichoke, quite lovely. Nice fresh cut grass on it. When I think almonds, I think of raw almonds, I think of green almonds coming off of here, so you get this beautiful fruity quality. So you know immediately that this is a high quality Evo because it's got all of these gorgeous fruits that bounce right off of there. Fruits include those grassy and herbaceous notes as well. I get some green apple on here. What are you guys finding? Anyone brave enough to say? Yeah, go ahead. Parsley. Parsley. I love it. So you're getting those green herbaceous notes coming forward. I love it when you find things like parsley and basil and all sorts of fresh green herbs. Thanks, Lauren. Now give it a taste again. Prepare yourself to give it a good slurp, right? Again, this one for me, it has a slight pepperiness on it, up on the nose. However, it also has, for me, almost these like sweet apples. It makes me think of applesauce stirred in with some of that green grass herbaceousness as well. And then a lot of that green almond I find is really, really present on here. So this is a great all-arounder as an olive oil. Arbequina, again, I feel like you can put it on anything. It works beautifully on pastas. You can do it on, here they've got them on desserts with orange slices. I recently put olive oil on mango. Unbelievable. This fresh sweetness of mango, playing with this, the sweetness just pops out, and the olive oil really accentuates all of the sugars in those beautiful mangoes. So here they recommend fish, seafood. I think that this drizzled on some nice grilled whitefish works very easily. I would also just do this at home with a nice fresh pasta with a little bit of Parmesan, maybe some pignolis thrown in there. Keep it simple, dash of sea salt, throw in some fresh herbs if you want. Keep it simple. Delicious, right? How are we doing on time? Okay. Our second olive oil is picual. So picual comes from, well, this is actually the most abundant variety in Spain as well as across the entire world. So approximately 900,000 hectares of production are in Spain, mainly in Jaén, Córdoba, and Granada. Now, it's actually also spreading, though, over to Castilla-La Mancha. Now, the name refers to its pointed tip shape. I'm not sure if you can see that right on the end there, but it has a little pointed tip, and that's the picual. Now, this one is actually known for its high stability, so its resistance to oxidation, which means it's perfect for cooking. Again, a lot of people think, oh, you can't cook with olive oil at high temperatures. This is a myth. Regular cooking temperatures are usually about 175 Celsius, and when you're looking at an extra virgin olive oil, it starts to break down at 175, and the range goes up to about 220. When you're looking at a virgin olive oil, it's even higher, going from about 200 to about 240 degrees Celsius. So yes, you can cook with olive oil. Now, with that, it's known for that high stability, so it works well with both raw and cooked foods. And the typical characteristics here, These ones have personality. They are full-bodied. They are fruity green olives that jump through with a nice light pepperiness and bitter olive leaf flavors. So look for those bitter leaves. Look for those fig leaves as well. So let's pick this one up. Have you been warming it up in your hand? I see you have. Well done. You're ahead of me. There, I love it. So warm this one up, give it a good swirl, and then give it a sniff when you're ready. Ooh. Immediately, it's so interesting because for me on the nose, it's still quite soft and fruity, but on the palate, that picante, that pungency at the end is kicking right now, and I am loving this because I've had a sore throat for the last 2 days. This has helped clearing my throat. So you immediately get that white pepper on the back there. You get gorgeous, again, herbaceous, strong and bold. This is something that for me on grilled fish, white fish, drizzled, it's just gonna punch everything out of it. It really is. Again, the green sensations, that fig plant, there's my fig tree again, right, coming through. But it's really that intensity of the leaves and the grass on the back of the throat. However, at the same time, it's still not overwhelming. It's got that picante, but it's still very well balanced. It has that bitterness hitting on the sides as well. So I always think of like bitter greens or even wheatgrass. Gives that wheatgrass quality as well. And then that white pepper on the back there. Here, again, they recommend everything from gazpachos to salads. It works beautifully with greens, obviously, because it's just going to bounce out any of those natural green flavors in salads. But be playful with your olive oils. Pair them together. What do we think of that one? Thumbs up? Our third olive oil is one of my favorites, hojiblanca. So, hojiblanca here, the region mainly from the provinces of Malaga, Córdoba, Granada, and Sevilla. And the name basically refers to the white color on the leaves. So when identifying the different olive trees out in the grove, you can actually see. I've looked at these from high above, and from high above, because of that silver tint on the leaf, that white tint, you can identify a grove of hojiblanca from afar compared to all the others. It's quite amazing. Now, this variety is actually used for both olive oil and table olives. It's a good thing to note that olives used for olive oil production are not always great table olives, and vice versa. However, some are excellent for both. It just depends upon the variety of the olive. And here are the typical characteristics: freshly cut grass, slight bitterness, and that peppery finish on the mouth. So, I see you guys already turning. You're thinking ahead. I like this. Give it a good swirl and then give it a sniff. And tune in. What do you find? Oh, for me, this one has a gorgeous freshness. I feel like there's freshly cut lawn on this one, right on the nose. It's as if we've just mowed the lawn right there, and there's your bottle of olive oil lying in that lawn. So, right on the nose. I get a lot of beautiful green in there. For me, I think of like green peas, green snap peas. You know, when you take them off and you break them open. Give this one a taste. Slurp it. What I like with this one is it's very soft and fruity on the entry, and then it starts to kick in. If you take a second sip, you'll start to see it kick in on the back of the throat. But this one has a delicate pepper, but it lingers and it stays. So again, that pepperiness is quite typical of hojiblancas. It's quite pungent and dances around on the back here. So this one here, they recommend again with salads, toasts. If you don't do pan con tomate, it's one of my favorite things, and in the morning having something nice and fresh like this is just a great way to start your day. What I like also with olive oil is, personally, I don't only use it with food. I mentioned already, I use it to start my day. I choose a nice, green, fresh, one that is high in polyphenols, so that gives that intensity, that bitterness. And I actually do a tablespoon of that to start my day every day. And between the health properties as well as just the freshness that it leaves on my palate, it's a fantastic way to start your day. I'm trying to figure out how I can travel with my olive oil at this point, which is pretty challenging. What do you guys think of that one? Any notes you want to share? Any comments? No? We have one more here. Now, our final and another similarity is blending. Blending is quite typical in the spirits world, and often it's misunderstood. The same goes for olive oil. There is an art to blending, the art of selecting different olive oils, or the art of selecting different casks and blending them together to create a spirit. Here with olive oil, they are also master blenders. Our final is the Oro del Desierto Coupage. Here, Juanjo is actually used all three varieties that you've tasted today. So again, harvesting from half of October to early November, but it's a blend of Arbequina, Hojiblanca, and Picual. But obviously those percentages are going to change with every single year, every single harvest. Again, every harvest is different. You kind of have to think of olive oils like wines. It's going to change depending upon the season. The level of production will change based on rain, hail, all of these terrible things. When I see it hail in Spain, I get so worried for all of the olive oil producers. But it will change the development of the olives at the end of the day. Now, give this one a sniff when you're ready. Take your time with it. Oh, I adore this. This is my go-to. It really is. I just think it's a fantastic blend. On the nose here, I'm getting a lot of green grass notes. But I'm also getting like fresh apples and like a little bit of an unripened banana skin. You ever smelled green banana? Green banana is a great flavor to find on olive oil. You may get a hint of tomato, maybe even tomato leaf. Now give it a slurp if you haven't already. I just saw Lauren's reaction. It gave a kick that you didn't expect, right? This one has a gorgeous spice on it. That comes across as a white pepper spice. Thank you. Comes across as a white pepper spice. It's got a little bit of even perhaps cinnamon on it. No matter what spice you're detecting, there's definitely a beautiful picante element playing in there. The bitterness, though, is quite even. Again, not overwhelming, plays to the sides of the cheeks. You get a little bit of that astringency, but beautifully balanced. This one to me is just so versatile. Again, it's my daily go-to for pretty much anything. Now, with all of that, as you can see, there's so much opportunity with olive oil, and when you take a look at it, when you're nosing and tasting something that you don't nose and taste daily, when it comes to our spirits evaluation at the end of the day, it continues to build our brains in terms of flavor. But as you can see through this whole journey, I hope you've learned and experienced that there are a lot of same but different similarities between olive oils and spirits. At the end of the day, each place is looking to take beautiful raw materials, process them through and create something exceptional at the end, and something wonderful to explore, to taste, and to continue to, again, build that filing cabinet of aromas and flavors on our palates, on our noses, and in our minds. So I just want to say an enormous thank you to all of you. I hope you've enjoyed this journey, and cheers. Thank you. Thank you.